But we do appreciate you joining and hope to have some, at least a little bit of a quick update from various agencies. And we will try to be respectful of our time and still get through about a half a dozen or so different topics that we have today. So with that, I want to go ahead and we will start off. We're going to lead today with some NRCS updates. And so I guess for Gary or Doug, which one of you decided is going to give us an update today?
Can you hear Gary?
I can't. Can you, Cindy?
No. Let me message. I don't know if he's got his mic on. His mic's off.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now you're good.
Okay.
Now you're good.
Which microphone I had the wrong one on. Okay. Yeah, my name is Gary. Gary Gabatz. I am the acting district conservationist, covering the Monroe, Madison, and St. Clair County groups. And I guess I'll just go over probably some of the numbers of our contracts and some of the things that we've been working on lately. And I'll give just an update on staff first. Doug Melvin is the soil conservationist down in Waterloo, and Cindy's the administrative coordinator, as y'all know. Tom Creer is the resource conservationist. We have two survey aides that are working for the district group, Cole and Michael. They're stationed in Belleville, but they help cover all three counties. They're new to us, and they're currently in training right now. And then, as I mentioned, I'm the acting district conservationist. John Harriman retired as of September 11th last year, so I've been acting since the 14th. And a little update, and we do want to thank John for his service, 53 years of service, which is amazing. There will be a new DC selected probably within 1 to 2 months. The advertisement is out on that right now. And so looking forward to seeing that panel come back here pretty soon. And then the administrative people above will start looking at those and seeing who they want to select. Under EQIP, that's our Environmental Quality Incentive Program. We have 3 contracts that are active in Monroe, and we have 24 applications. And the applications range, primarily they're on cropland type situations, but some of them might be forest management plans and grazing plans, comprehensive nutrient management plans. But there's an assortment of those in there, and we'll be working on those in the next week, trying to wrap some of those up to get them ready to compete for funding. As you know, may or may not know, EQIP is a competitive program, as is some of our other programs. It's not an automatic, so not everybody gets in every time. Some people sit in there a few times, and we try to work with them and get them as many points, but we have to, just rely on what they're willing to do and what their resource concerns are at that time. Under CRP, that's a Farm Service Agency program, but we do a lot of most of the technical work on that. We're currently reviewing 78 contracts for maintenance reviews, and some of those are done and some of them are yet to be done, but we're working on getting some of those accomplished. And there's 13 installation status reviews that we are either working toward or need to be working on pretty soon. Sign up 55 and 56 will be turned over to, I guess, sort of, I think April something is the deadline for those to be submitted. So we'll be working on suitability and feasibility determinations on those that FSA turn over to us, and making sure that they meet all the requirements of being enrolled into a contract. Conservation Stewardship Program is another NRCS competitive program. We currently have 3 contracts in Monroe County, and we have 6 applications that are sitting there waiting for us to evaluate them when that period comes up. And I don't remember the date on it. It's coming up pretty soon. ASEP, which is our conservation easement program. There are currently 9 easements in Monroe County, and 1 application sitting. We're waiting on some information for that one to be complete. And the application cutoff for all the ASEP WREs is this Friday. WIP, there's two active WIP contracts in Monroe County. And I did review those, look at them yesterday, and they do have some practices scheduled for this year and next year. And so those are Wildlife Habitat Incentive Program contracts. And those actually haven't been around for a while. They've been morphed into EQIP. So that's really, we don't see a lot of those anymore. But we still do a lot of wildlife habitat, and it's usually through the EQIP or one of the other programs. Currently, Doug has a list of about 16 sites that we're working on completing surveys and developing construction plans if necessary. These are practices that need engineering, or sites that need engineering. And some of these may be EQIP applications, or they may become EQIP applications. So between the staff that works in the MMS group, we have people like Tom Crayer, and he's the RC, and then Ray, he's the conservation technician. Between them and then our area staff, like we have an engineer and a civil engineer technician. We try to get as many people in to survey as possible, especially on the good days. Some of our staff, like Doug, is working on developing nutrient management plans and pest management plans. There's some contracts that we have scheduled, some of those practices, and we're working on them, or we're feeding the information to some area specialists who are going to be helping us develop those plans for those contracts. I mentioned earlier the EQIP. The assessment and ranking deadline is next Friday. We did have a deadline a few weeks ago, but everything got stopped because the ranking tool broke and they had to figure out how to fix it. So that's been remedied, and now we're all working on trying to get our EQIPs ready to go for next Friday's cutoff. I mentioned staff. Anytime the sites are dry and not, frozen, I guess frozen would work, but anytime we can get out in the field, generally we try to get out if we can, if we have staff available, if we're not consumed with something else. So we are trying to get more and more survey done, especially because they do lead to more contracts. We also have FSA compliance status reviews are starting back up. We do these every year. That's a random list of tracks that are submitted to NRCS, and it's our responsibility to go out and check and make sure these participants are following a conservation plan, make sure they're not violating any wetland issues. So those are starting up here again. I think they're starting training here pretty shortly on those. And we do have the track list. So we're working through the tracks that were submitted to us and making sure that they're a valid track, and that try to start gathering information, because we have to inspect the site right after planting. So we have to notify these participants that they're going to be reviewed, and then afford them the opportunity to be along if they choose. And last, I'd just say workload is increasing. Some of the numbers aren't, really large, but it's building, and the workload, especially the applications, is building in Monroe County, and Doug's doing a good job of that, and Cindy's helping out. And we're going to get, eventually the county's going to keep getting better. So there's a ton of potential down there, and NRCS is trying to do what they can with the staff that we have to accommodate everybody. But that's really all I have, unless anybody's got any questions.
Anybody have any questions or anything else to add as far as NRCS? All right, well, thank you very much, Gary. We appreciate you sharing an update. All right, we'll keep on moving now on to FSA. We have Eric. If you want, you're welcome to, you're unmuted. You should be ready to go, Eric.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so yes, I'm Eric Alberter. I was working in St. Clair County, and then when Wendy took her position up in the state office, I took over Monroe and have been acting down there since about October. So first off, our big deadline that we have for the farm program coming up is Monday the 15th. So if anybody has any signatures that they will need to get into us, they have not hinted whatsoever at any type of extension. So that deadline is coming up here Monday. I know we have quite a few contracts out that need to be signed yet. So make sure you guys get those in. We are limited on staff. We still cannot have any visitors into FSA or NRCS offices. So it's kind of put a little bit of a burden on us as far as getting stuff in and out. I know Monroe County has a drive-up window, and then St. Clair, we have like a little lobby area that we've been putting stuff in and out on for people to pick up and drop off. It would be a big help to us if you called the office before you headed in, just so that we can make sure we have all your stuff ready and know what you're coming for. Just kind of help speed up the process. CRP sign up was extended indefinitely. I have not heard any date on when that will end. So if anybody has any CRP practices they're thinking about putting in, contact the office and let us know, and we'll do our best to get those in as soon as we possibly can. There's a Qla program that was extended the deadline. We haven't had a lot of applications. That one was on a grain quality loss, anything over 5% out of your total grain production that had a loss would be eligible for a payment. So that's still going on. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, and I know Gary, we probably need to talk about this too, is 1026s. If anybody's doing any tiling or land clearing, make sure you contact our office, get a 1026, so we can make sure that you guys are good to go with wetlands and HEL provisions to get that stuff taken care of before you start any big projects like that. And I think for now, the next big deadline for us will be crop certification, which is July 15th. That will be coming up here before too long. I know stuff's starting to dry out, and guys, I saw quite a few guys out spraying yesterday. So once you get your stuff planted, contact the office. I would imagine at this point we'll be doing certification the same way we did last year in both counties, where you guys pick up your maps, fill them out, drop them back off, and then we'll contact you to sign your 578s once we get everything loaded. So for the near future, that's about all we have going on. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take some.
I do have one question or something just maybe for you to clarify on cover crop certification, and what if the guys do have a cover crop, what do they need to do? I know I had heard that there is even, is it required now? And I just wanted to bring that up if you want to just address that briefly.
I haven't seen anything where cover crops are required as of right now. We have been getting quite a few more guys certifying to cover crops. I don't know if there's going to be any programs that could potentially come out. And Gary, do you guys have any cover crop programs that would need 578 certifications for? I know we don't have any right now. I didn't know if you guys had any in the works.
Yeah, we don't. All our cover crops are just needed for payments, making sure they meet the standard spec, but we don't really have to deal with certification. We review them for making sure they have the requirements PLS, and the right species, but that's all we have to do with ours.
Okay.
All right, no, thank you. I just, if anything, wanted someone to kind of either put an answer to a myth or just kind of lay it out. So no, that is good. If they do report cover crops, is there any specific deadline for them to do that, or would it fall in case with the July 15th deadline?
Those would be December 15th, the same as the wheat.
Okay.
Wheat certification date.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Of course, I wanted to remind you that throughout, you can, you certainly, if you have a question in the middle of a presentation, you can use the chat box, which that chat function is down the center bottom of your screen. Type something in and we'll make sure to get that addressed if you don't want to necessarily interrupt in the middle of things. So no, that is good. Any other questions on the FSA side? All right, well, we'll continue, keep moving on, and to the, we'll talk to Cindy and local soil and water district. And Cindy, I'll let you say a few words and share anything you want to.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. Every year we have, well, not every year, it's been since September of 2012 was our last meeting. We had a local lead meeting for Monroe County. So we thought this was a good opportunity to reach out again and kind of get a list of everybody's resource concerns. We picked the top 5 from back in 2012, and it was county development, floodplain management, soil erosion, bluff and natural areas, weed and invasive species control. So we're kind of, Sarah had set up a poll so you can take to see if these are still resource concerns that are out there in the county. And then I think there's going to be a space where you can, add if there's other resource concerns, and we can compile that together. If you could take a few minutes and do that. I don't know, Sarah, were you going to launch it now or?
Yeah, the poll should be open. So the participants, not the co-host, will be able to vote, but the participants can click on their selection. Again, it's an anonymous poll. And if, as Cindy mentioned, if there's something that is a concern, this part won't be anonymous. You can put it in the chat box and let us know if there's something new that needs to be added to that list.
And if you don't want to put it in the chat box to the whole group, if you click on the chat box, you can go to, there's a drop down menu. It probably says everyone. You could also send that direct to Cindy, or of course, I'm sure they can certainly email you, Cindy, if they have any resource concerns anytime.
Right.
But we're hoping this would at least give an opportunity to get a little bit of feedback from folks. So we can let that run a little bit. Cindy, if you have anything else to share, people can kind of look at that poll as they go here for another minute or so.
Unless anybody's got any questions. But yeah, we'll tally this together and then we send it up to NRCS and we go from there.
And this is Gary. I would just like to add that the local lead is something that we're required to do every year. It may, some counties may possibly have dropped them or haven't conducted them in a while, and that's, we don't worry about that, but we do need to continue doing them. And it's important because the resource concerns at each county are going to be assembled and submitted in. Some of the questions on our rankings for EQIP will be tailored to certain, because of these resource concerns that are found regionally. So you might see more invasive species type questions, and funding might be directed more toward that. So same thing with wildlife habitat or soil erosion. We've always had those concerns, but if they start to notice trends that are moving in a different direction, that's why it's really important to capture what's going on at each county level. And so that's something that we want to do this year. And I applaud what they're doing here. This is a great idea to do it kind of this way, because COVID's really tying us up with. Normally we would have an actual meeting and invite certain people to that meeting, not necessarily landowners, but elected officials, and we usually have the county committee, board members assembled, and they are representing the people. But at this meeting, we go through, it's typically an hour to an hour and a half long, and we go through a list of actually all different things and try to extract this information. And like I said, it is used to guide future programs. So that was in case anybody wasn't aware of why we what the need is to do the local lead movement.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll. We've got some results in there, so thank you for those that completed it. And I'll get those results to Cindy.
All right, well, we will go ahead then and continue on. Next, we have Michael Gill, who works through PCM. And Cindy, do you have anything you want to kind of share in leading up just about Michael and his role here?
Yes, rolling in here, we are going to be launching a new program here for 5 counties, and Monroe County is one, and we're going to be the main county, and the PCM employee will be employed through here. We're just in the hiring process right now, but Michael Gill, he's Director of Conservation of Agriculture with the Illinois Soybean Association. He's going to explain a little bit about this position and what this person will be offering to us, along with 5 other counties. But this person will be housed here in Monroe County. So if you want to go ahead, Michael.
Sure. You should be seeing a slide that says PCM, Precision Conservation Management, at the top. Is that's what's showing on the screen?
Yes, everything looks good and we can hear you, so you're good.
Great. Yeah, so my name is Michael Gill. I've come to ISA from after 30 years in the industry side of agriculture. I worked that time, probably about 3/4 of it, as agronomist, seed agronomist for various companies, 1/4 of that in field research, actually management and carrying out measurements, observations, the whole deal. And then the last portion of that in crop model development, specifically on the validation and improvement side of crop models with Monsanto, with integrated farming systems and field scripts, and with Climate's Nitrogen Advisor. My background really is as an undergrad is wildlife biology, and then I went back to school and received my master's in basically soils and soils fertility. Actually, a little trivia: I back in the day did my thesis through NRCS, although back in that day it wasn't NRCS; it was by a different name, Soil Conservation Service. I worked on a soil depletion study in Southwest Wisconsin, so conservation management is near and dear to my heart. So precision conservation management, what is it? So it is a joint collaboration between Illinois Corn Growers Association and the Illinois Soybean Association. This is the first year we've been fully vested in it, and we've provided funding to expand the program within Illinois. And part of that expansion area, as Cindy had indicated, is those 5 southern counties: the Monroe, Madison, Clinton, Washington, and St. Clair. And Monroe County has been kind enough to let us house our PCM specialist, which I'll explain what that position is here in a few moments, there in Monroe County. So first off, this wouldn't be possible without funding from USDA and Nrcs. We're very appreciative of that. We also have some private industry funding that helps with this program and helps run the system. We also have great support through Gary Schnipke at the University of Illinois in Farm Docs. And then, of course, farm business, farm management is a part of it also. It's the background data that's used to do some of the economics in and around these practices. If you'd like to learn more about PCM, you can visit precisionconservation.org. Let's get this a bit advances. Oops, let me go back one first. So when you look at that screen to the side there, just to explain what the map means, the outlined red areas are the areas that were established and have been established for some time in Illinois, where PCM has existed. The counties where there's circles is basically where we're expanding. So we're adding 3 PCM specialists in the state of Illinois, and currently we have our other cooperating office is Ogle County, Illinois, way up in the northern part. Currently, we're still settling on where we'll be down in this 4-county area, down around the Quad Cities. and everything. So so a kind of a simplified idea of explanation of what PCM is. So what happens is the farmer can go in and he can enter his pass-by-pass data into the farmer portal tool at the web address that's outlined here. And like any of these programs, projects, whatever you want to call them, that are coming on the market, including a lot of the carbon marketing and water quality marketing programs that are being offered by industry and nonprofits alike, it requires quite a bit of data entry, just to warn you up front. Remember, it needs to go back several years. I'm not currently, I don't have the number on my mind for PCM, but I know with carbon marketing, it's anywhere from 2 years worth of previous data on pass by pass within a field to up to 10 years with some programs that are out there. We don't require 10 years by any means. We're more in that 5-year range of looking at practices and so on and so forth. So after the farmer has done that, and our PCM specialists are there to help with that data entry, we're going to provide you a one-on-one analysis and consultations. These individuals being experts in conservation practices of practices you want to employ within your farm, or improving the practices that you're currently doing to make them more productive in the sense of carbon sequestration, nutrient retention, all the things that we're looking to do here in the state of Illinois. And the real thing is to have some economic performance measure there every year. So at the end of the year, what you're going to receive is a report on your farm compared to other farms within the state that are within this program. So that's what that background data and aggregate is being used for. So like a lot of companies that are gathering data nowadays, that data is being mined. It's being used to look at and make observations and assumptions about where you stand against someone else, or, and I won't get into the whole industry side and how they use it today, but big data is kind of the word of the day here and what's going on in the industry today. So we'll give you measurable improvements for year over year and try to help you move forward the measure of how well you're doing there in your fields as you add more practices, as you continue with the practices that you have in place. That aggregate data in itself is usable not only by the farmers that are involved in PCM, but it's also used by, supply chain members. So let's say that, and this is one of those things that we're investigating with PCM, is looking and getting into that carbon markets and into the water quality market side of the industry, and actually being that venue for farmers to sell those credits to individuals. If we see that, and we understand what's going on there, we can tell those supply chain members like a PepsiCo or an Ingredion, who are the buyers of these credits, what you are doing on your farm. And we can go to them and we can say, okay, we have blank number of credits to sell. How much will you pay us for those credits? So this is all futuristic, but this is something that's on our mind and where we want to go with this. It's also something that we can use to tell stories to consumers, so that non-ag public in aggregate. So we can tell what year over year improvements have been made, what we're sequestering as far as carbon as groups of farmers in Illinois throughout different locales. We can use it to talk with legislators about legislation that may be coming down and what works as far as funding. So the nice thing about this is that we can look at this data and say, okay, we know an individual that has had in his operation has just started into the cover crop scene about 4 years ago. Let's just pick a number. And we have seen him progress across those 4 years, and we see how things are changing in his system as far as ROI across those 4 years. So it gives that ability to look at it and say, what's reasonable funding? We can go to a legislator and let him know, what's needed to support these programs in the field and make those changes that we're being asked to make, that we want to make with regards to climate change. And above all, it's all outcomes based. It's about improving water quality and soil health. That's really what we're looking at here. And as I've stated, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I am excited to be here at the Illinois Soybean Association in this position and being able to help further efforts in this area. So that's what I have today, Cindy. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Michael? I think it's certainly nice to see some more of these resources for our area, and happy to see that person when they get hired in, and how we can connect them and work on some of these conservation topics and help aid farmers.
Yeah, just real briefly too, if anybody knows of anybody interested, I think we're still taking applications, probably for another, I think I talked to Travis in maybe another week or so. So if anybody out there knows of anybody, go ahead and put your application in.
All right. Well, any other questions or anything? All right. Well, we will continue to move on. I am going to, I'll be the next presentation here, and just sharing a little bit of an extension perspective of for the county. So first to start off with, just wanted to mention that if you are needing assistance, you are welcome to come into our office. We have open office hours here, so we still are on somewhat of a rotating schedule. Not all of us are in the office every day, trying to keep so we don't have our full staffing in, but we're all working. And certainly if you need something, let us know. You're of course welcome to call, and we do have areas where we can even just do drops and leave things out for you in the lobby and other things as well. So feel free to reach out to us as you have any of these agriculture needs. So first, I'm going to jump into a few different things that we're doing. A lot of things that I'm working with. First is working at the Badler Educational Farm. I've had multiple projects going on there, and some things ongoing that we're doing some research and demonstrations, and continually expanding that as we get more things established and laid out, and ability to work on these things. This last fall, we put out some different cover crop applications, mainly since the farm will be going to soybeans. We focused a lot on cereal rye. So we're looking at some different things as far as we're heading to soybeans. We have a couple of demonstration plots with some different seeding rates, just general some test strips that we're going to collect some yield data off of with and without cereal rye, and then just some other kind of management factors, especially as we talk with and think about soybeans. Another thing we do have, and we are actually at the farm, has worked with a company called CoverCress. And so they are actually working, one of the companies, they're based out of St. Louis, that is actually working to breed a oilseed version of pennycress that would be actually a harvestable crop, like basically a winter annual crop similar to wheat, but could work into production systems and provide another overwintering crop that could go in after corn, but say before soybeans. And so that is one thing. They have some test plots out and have some space that they are doing research. I'm not directly involved in that, but it'll be interesting to see how that works out. I haven't seen it a lot myself, so I'm learning with everyone else on this. So that is something else we will see spring rolls on, what we have, and you hear updates on that. Also, this doesn't apply to a lot of you, but many of you, if you have been out to the farm, note I did, as I came into this role a little over a year ago, I had a grant to do some no-till and cover crop research in tomatoes and peppers on research trial. And so we do have that ongoing. The second year of that trial is ongoing. It's right behind the main shed, and so we have different tillage systems, and we're basically researching yield on those. And there's also a comparable trial to that up in Urbana. So I did mention roller crimping, and so that is one thing that I just want to do, and I'll play this. We do have a roller crimper that I got as a part of this grant. So we're going to also talk about this at events and show. That's just Again, another way we could use, another tool we can use in cover crop management. So I think that's something, although not everyone's going to jump out and invest in one of these, there's interest in it. And I think there's utility in using this or doing something like this in our cover crop systems, laying down residue as we're trying to, you know, understand some of the best management practices we have for, you know, producing those producing crops and using some of these cover crops in those systems. So I think that's another opportunity, and we'll certainly talk about that more if we have any events or other things that we're just doing more education on it. So from there, I just wanted to share a brief snapshot. I mentioned the tomatoes and peppers. This is just a snapshot mid-season last year of some of our production. So here, this plot was one that had cereal rye and peppers were no-till transplanted in. That's just a snip of kind of what was going on with that. Certainly, for those of you who may have heard other things, it was able to capture some really neat information about that applies not only to these crops, but certainly any of our no-till systems. And so certainly, you know, look for programs and opportunities, especially this year, to hear more about that. So with that, I'm going to you know, open up and announce that we just finalized the plans to do a small cover crop field day in person at the Babbler Educational Farm 2 weeks from today on March 24th. Hopefully the weather won't be, well, hopefully it'll be nice outside, but hopefully it'll be a day where everyone's not wanting to be out in the field, but we are going to take a little time. We have some different things out there, especially regarding cereal rye and management, and that had the soybeans physically in the field. We're hoping to have someone from CoverCress just give a few mentions on the work they're doing with some pennycress and just learn a little bit about that and how that may be an opportunity in the future. And then just certainly I'll be there just to talk with guys and address any, you know, cover crop challenges and general production information, especially going into spring, and then hopefully encouraging some things as, you know, guys are planning for what they're going to do and thinking about things in the fall. So we'll be publicizing that more, and certainly we are going to we're going to do this. We are limited with our programming now, especially outside. We can have up to 50 people at an event, so we're going to do this, but of course we will still be distancing and wearing masks and other things in this, but we are excited to have an opportunity at least to in the small groups gather and take a look at some things and be able to answer questions and do some education. So I wanted to give a few updates on some other testings and certifications a lot of guys are needing to do or may have interest in. So first, your general pesticide testing and licensing. So do know that testing and training is available online. You can do both of those online. The exam, when you take that, is proctored, and you will need a good internet connection, a computer with a webcam and a microphone. So there is a fee. I think most of the time it's $12 to take a proctored test, and that's just to cover the proctoring service. So that would be different than if you did have an in-person opportunity. If you remember, there is no fee just to come in and take a test. However, you know, you just have the fee for your license if you pass the test and get it. So that is one thing just to expect. There's more details online for that. However, I just wanted to give you an idea of what you would need to do, and that there aren't any in-person trainings. So this would be all, if you do want the training component, you need to do the online portion. If you do want to take the test and want the study materials, we do have those at our office. Feel free to call in, or you can stop in and we can get those training, we can get the training manuals, private and general standards and all those things we do have. So certainly in lieu of a training, you're welcome to grab those and study on your own. There are some limited in-person testing sessions available. And if you go just to the pesticide testing page, I have the link here, but if you go to that page, and I can put that in the chat box if you need it, or certainly you can send me a message or a note and I can get that to you. There are going to be a couple of additional in-person testing dates. April 1st and April 8th, which I don't know if they are up there yet. I know as of 2 days ago they weren't up, but Tim Stumpf, our local person from Illinois Department of Agriculture, did tell me that those are dates that will be coming. You must pre-register. This isn't like the old days where you had the walk-in, so you have to pre-register. They do have very limited numbers due to the space and capacity of our meeting room here and conference room. So but those are options. If you do want to go ahead and just take your test as you would usually, you can do that. So do look for that. I know there were dates in February and also in a couple in March. However, the last I looked, those are all at capacity already. I think have been for a little while. So do look that up. If nothing else, feel free to contact us and we can direct you to where the sign up is for those dates. And if they aren't up yet, they will be very soon. So I want to mention the Anhydrous Ammonia training. So some of you probably seen and heard about this. I just wanted to put it on your radar if you hadn't. So this is for Illinois growers and farm operators who transport or apply anhydrous ammonia and otherwise maintain ammonia equipment. So that's the direct verbiage of who it applies to. So that does note that it's for transporters and applicators. So this is something more in the future. There is training going on now already. The users must be trained before April 1st of next year. So, and that training is good for 3 years. Most of them are free trainings. There are free trainings offered online. I did note there are on this a few limited in-person trainings in certain areas. I didn't see any necessarily around here, but certainly you can go online and do the training. But just know that if you do use anhydrous, that is something, especially within the next year, you will need to do. Fortunately, I say this is not a training that does cost as far as the online version, but it is certainly another thing to keep in mind. The current trainings available predominantly are from the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and then also the Illinois Fertilizer and Chemical Association have training modules that are approved and available. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. Also, a reminder again on the paraquat training, if you use gramoxone or any of the other paraquat containing herbicides, Firestorm and other generics, there is a required training in order to purchase those, and that is at that website here. Certainly if you do a online search for paraquat training, you can easily also come up with this. It is a free training. There's a short quiz. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour and it's good for 3 years. So that is something that if you do purchase that, in addition to having your pesticide license specific for paraquat, you need to make sure that you have this training in order to use that. So Dicamba training, of course, many of us are familiar with that by now. You do need to go through this training again annually if you're going to use any of these post-emergent dicamba products in your dicamba tolerant soybeans. So there are the Illinois Fertilizer and Pesticide Association has the online trainings, and so those and it's predominantly all online. There's different listings there they give kind of an index of those. This year they are available again online only through Bayer, BASF, and Syngenta. So they each have one, and note that if no matter what product you're using, whose chemical or whose form of dicamba you're applying in this, any of those trainings with that certification will meet the needs for that requirement. So note you can go through either of those companies' trainings and that will satisfy it, no matter if you're using Tavium or Extendamax or whichever. So with that, that is all that I had, and just wanted to give you a quick snapshot. We do appreciate and all of the information, trying to do what we can to help people out. Note that we are starting to, again, we just recently with some of the changes in regulation, doing some small groups and gatherings. So we are hopefully going to start to have some small group programs and things again, and so we are looking forward to that. So anyone have any questions Any questions for me? All right, well, with that, we will go ahead and turn it over. The last topic we have for today is just talking about the Payroll Protection Program, or the PPP loans, and how they apply to farmers. So we have, I know we have Tyler Kunkelman and Mike Bruns. I believe, Tyler, are you going to lead us, I think, today, at least to start off with? All right, so the platform should be yours, and we appreciate you guys taking a little time to share with us on this program and how this will apply. Before you guys get started, do note that we do have a drawing. We didn't have other things, so we do have a drawing for kind of a door prize. So please don't disappear too early. So you can, for any of you that are participants, can take the opportunity to maybe get access to that. So. All right, Tyler, it's all yours.
I just want to introduce myself first. Tyler Kunkelman, work for Illinois Farm Business Farm Management, and then also on the call from Farm Business Farm Management is Mike Bruns from the Nashville area. Appreciate this opportunity to speak upon this topic. It's a very hot topic in really any business, whether it's a farmer or a commercial business. Restaurants, especially, that were hit hard during the pandemic going on. To start with, I would kind of go over the basics of the PPP program, the who's, the what's, the why's, the where's, and the when's. So the PPP program is not new this year of 2021. It's something that came out with the CARES Act on March 27th of 2020. There was additional funding, again, after the first round of funds ran out, and that was back on August 8th. And now we have a third round that just was funded at the end of December 27th, to be exact, by the Trump administration. And what this was supposed to be used for, was to help businesses with the pandemic, to keep their employees on the payroll, to keep the economy moving, even if there wasn't the business due to people being on lockdown. The PPP program it's backed by the SBA, the Small Business Administration. The loans are a 1% interest rate, maturity of 5 years. And then if the funds are used for the designated purposes, at least 60% payroll and 40% other, that's mortgage, interest, rents, utilities, covered operation expenditures, then you can apply for forgiveness of these notes. And where do I get one? How can I get one? Am I eligible? Any SBA approved lender is able to do these loans. It is a standard application, and they just updated the application, well, the beginning of this week, end of last week. It's about a 3-page application with some instructions on it. It's standardized. Most banks in the area are doing these loans. I've not really talked to anybody that is not. And what you need to sign up for these is obviously the application. Then the banks will probably need something showing that you're in business as of February 15th of 2020. Payroll documentation, either if you're self-employed, your Schedule C or your Schedule F, or if you just have employees as a corporation, then you would need your 941s or 943s if you're an agricultural employer. And then some lenders are requiring other documentation, and that's where we see a little inconsistencies, but everybody it's something new, and we have to be patient and respectful of the lenders and what they may need for their board and their operation requirements. And as far as how much time we have left, I want to share my screen on a little bit of the funding of this third round, the third round of funding, and see if this works. Can you see my screen there?
Yes, we can see it. Yep, you're good.
Okay, so I'll kind of leave this in the background, but this kind of goes through the weekly documentation, the number of loans, average loan amount, how many dollars is going out, and then kind of on that trend, what we expect or when we expect these funds to run out. So as we've seen in the first and second rounds of these PPP loans is everybody gets the loans, the big loans come first, and then they start to drop off. And then you kind of see we're getting down to loan dollars this week. Just updated 3 days ago on the 7th that we're getting about $9 billion out on that week. So we started at 35. So they're kind of tapering off. There's still plenty of funds left at 83 billion. We started at 248 billion. And this date exhausted, that date is the last day you can file for a PPP loan under the current deadline. That current deadline is March 31st of 2021. There's talks about extending this, but there is nothing official. There may be some items in the next round of stimulus package that is being looked at by the House and Senate. Now, and a couple other things that you may ask is, do I qualify? So as long as you were in business by February 15th of 2020, you have fewer than 500 employees. This would apply to self-employed individuals, independent contractors, sole proprietors, gig workers, nonprofits, etc. And then the second round, so if you've already received the first round, the second round you must meet a couple other requirements that show you need it, another round to continue to stay in business or to keep employees on the payroll. And they kind of tightened up on the employees. Now it's fewer than 300 employees. You can demonstrate a decline of gross receipts of 25% compared to, you take your December or a calendar quarter of 2020, compare to that to 2019. And if you show at least a 25% decline of gross receipts, then you would be applicable for another draw. And you must have already spent the proceeds or plan to spend the proceeds on those designated expenditures from your first draw. And then after everything is said and done, you get your money, you have exhausted it on payroll costs of 60% and then 40% of those other costs, you're able to apply for forgiveness. So these are forgivable loans. The paperwork is rather simple and it's an easy form for loans under 150,000. Those over 150,000 require more documentation, proof that you used them for those items. The loans 150 or less are more of a signature saying that yes, I used those loan amount for the designated expenses. We need to keep those records for 6 years. And after you get the loan, you have an 8-week or 24-week time period to use the funds. And that's what I call the covered period. So after that time has passed, that is when you would be able to apply for forgiveness. And I've been telling people there's no rush to apply for forgiveness. We've got a large amount of time, and this has been changing weekly, daily in cases since it was introduced back in March and April of 2020. And then when it is forgiven, this becomes non-taxable. So it is a forgivable, non-taxable loan. That's about all I have in the essence of those. Just kind of wanted to give a brief overview without getting too far in the weeds. But that is kind of a background of it. Any questions? Mike, is there anything that you may add?
The numbers of when it's going to be exhausted could be skewed a little bit. We're coming out of a 2-week period where only 20 employees or fewer businesses could apply. So there's one thought that some banks are stockpiling some larger loans that could hit the end of this week, early next week. But otherwise, yeah, finally, it looks like it will last through March 31st, which is the end of the program, whereas before it looked like we were barely going to get to the middle of March here.
Excellent point.
Tyler, could you or Mike speak to a little bit of the calculation? I mean, high level, briefly, you know, how the old program was calculated and then how the new one is?
Sure. Mike, you want to do this?
But it's mainly we just got to determine what your your annual payroll cost is, and then get that down into a monthly format. And then the loan is basically a 2.5 month advance of that. And then for the self-employed, there's farmers it was farmers only, now other businesses can use it too, but we basically just use your gross receipts up to 100,000, and it's like I said, a 2.5 month advance of each month there. So the max loan for a self-employed would be the $20,833.
I know when I went through this, I was just very surprised how it was based off of gross receipts for farmers, and the amount that could quickly add up, even if you didn't think maybe you would qualify based on like net income originally. So it's definitely something for everybody to look at, regardless of the size of their operation, really, just you know, to look to see how much they might qualify for.
Yeah, the gross receipts was something that was added and like I said, at first it was for farmers only, and it was added due to kind of how depreciation calculates on the Schedule F returns. So that first round farmers were a little bit, who are trading equipment, selling equipment, were negatively affected. So that was why the push was to be able to use gross receipts.
May add too is a lot of people weren't able to get the full amount in the first round. Like you said, the equipment trades and those based on the new tax laws we currently have in place, the trades would show income, but those weren't part of the Schedule F. So some farmers may show a negative or just a small income and weren't applicable to get the full loan amount. And then on this third round of funding in December of 2020, they switched it for farmers and fishermen to go off of that line 9 gross receipts. And then just here, 2 weeks ago, Mike, they allowed Schedule C businesses to also go off of that gross receipts number. So if you're thinking, well, why didn't I get the max amount the first round? It's because the rules had once again changed on this program.
And that could be something that would uptick the amount of money going out too. So there's still somewhat of a rush to get into the bank to get your application started, even though it looks like the funds are going to stay through the end of March. But more Schedule C's get in there, recalculate on their gross returns, the money could go out quicker than what we're anticipating now.
Anyone else have any questions, or Tyler or Michael, anything else along those lines that you, or other kind of related topics? I know it's obviously tax season is here, so if there's any other thoughts that you want to share along those lines, certainly we have a few minutes if you want to.
I would just kind of echo and stress the importance, if you're qualified and eligible for this program, to at least get the topic started with your lender if you're interested in it. We do expect the funds to stay until the deadline, but there is, just like anything else, there is no guarantees. It sounds like it's too good to be true, but we've done our fair share and helped many farmers with their loans. So.
All right. Well, Thank you guys. We appreciate you sharing. It's definitely helpful information to kind of lay that out. And I know there's often lots of questions and, you know, what is or isn't really how it is. So I appreciate that. I think it was a good job of kind of laying that out for everything. So with that, anyone from anyone here, do you have anything else to add to our conversation? Also, we want to, before we wrap it up and do our drawing, Brenda, do you have anything from Farm Bureau that you would like to, just any general updates you'd like to share? Certainly, we'd like to thank Farm Bureau, went in and pitched in for our drawing today, which I believe, Brenda, correct me if not, was a $20 Schneider's gift card. Is that correct?
That is correct. And most of our programs, unfortunately, had been canceled due to COVID and things, but we did try to, you know, sponsor some things virtually this year, and just hopefully the Farm Week issues are getting, the mailing issues are getting back on track, so people are getting the information out sooner rather than later, like we were experiencing in December and January. So just appreciate you guys putting the program together. I know we kind of came up with the ideas, and hopefully it was a benefit to those who could join this morning.
Certainly, we appreciate all of your participation today, and certainly feel free to reach out if you have other questions to myself or any of the agencies here that have been on today.